Hi, welcome back to Happy Apple Core Homestead. Today I have a huge treat for you. I have a local Pacific Northwest author, Joseph Hallett. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now you guys, I want to make sure you stay tuned to the very end of this video because we are going to get to hear an excerpt from Emergence Collective. All right, so tell us what you are working on, what you've been up to. Tell us about your books.
Okay, well, I wrote Emergence Collective. October, I released it October 22, and been sitting around and muddling around some other ideas, and then I started writing Emergence Ascended, the sequel to it, and it's about to be finished now, and they have a few more chapters left to finish that one. So that was my current project.
And do you have a publish date coming up yet, or kind of like a ballpark or anything like
A
that?
ballpark, probably right around, I guess, mid-November, early December is what I'm thinking.
Oh, the pressure is
Right.
on to finish those chapters.
Yeah, and I have to find an artist for the cover and go through another full round of editing to make sure I didn't screw up too much.
Awesome. Do you think there'll be any other books in this particular series?
Probably not, but you never know. When I wrote Emergence Collective, that was the whole story in my head, and then I was encouraged to write the sequel to it, so I decided to throw in the next generation, which is kind of what Emergence Ascended is about, is the next generation after Emergence Collective. So I'm not sure how much more story there's left after this, but I might just wake up one day with a new idea.
You can count on us to give you the peer pressure to keep these stories coming because they're amazing. Since this is a homesteading channel, can you tell us how your work relates to homesteading?
How it relates was I was raised in rural Alaska on homesteads, and pretty much until I was 12. And then I moved to Washington. Um, Being a kid on a homestead, there's not a lot. I had my share of chores, but no close neighbors. We were way out in Alaska, and for most of the time, no electricity, no plumbing, that sort of thing. So I didn't really have a lot to do except for my playground in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very creative. Anything I can get my hands on artistically, I sunk my teeth into. And writing wasn't a plan back then, but I had access to libraries. We didn't really have TV, so
Kind of hard without electricity.
right, make the squirrels run really fast.
Yeah.
So I discovered, science fiction and horror. I read H.P. Lovecraft when I think I was like 7 or 8, and that really inspired me in my love for science fiction and horror stories. So that's what inspired me to be creative. Really was not boredom, but to keep preoccupied. Of course, I had my sister, but we didn't really have any friends that could, nowadays you just like, hey, you want to come over?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I could tell if my neighbor was home because I could see their smoke coming in from their chimney. That was about it. So, send smoke signals. So I spent a lot of time just being creative and, imagining stories and acting them out and playing in the woods and building forts and that sort of thing.
That's amazing. The original childhood,
Right.
it's so different now, isn't it? For most people.
Oh yeah,
Did a bear ever come and try to get to you in the outhouse, like in the middle of the night? Like I gotta
know. Moose.
No.
Moose were the problem. Bears are scary, but moose are dangerous. I mean, bears are dangerous, but moose, they're mean and they have a hair trigger, and anything will set them off. And there's more of them, so they have a tendency to hang around your house. So yeah, more than one occasion, I've been running to the outhouse and they had to turn around because there's a moose there.
Oh no! Can you imagine? I know this is family friendly, so I can't use any swear words, but whew.
Yes.
And they're huge, aren't they huge? Even if you're not a little kid, they're huge.
Oh yeah. Even the small ones are big,
Ooh, oh my
and they're stupid.
What made you want to write and then share that with the whole world, as opposed to keeping a journal, for example?
Well, I have the saying, artists need audiences. I mean, and that's sort of a little ego thing, but everything I do really is just for me, but I have this urge to share it with people. So,
Yeah.
so it's like, ooh, look, put this on the refrigerator, mommy.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
That's basically what it is for me. If I make something, I give away far more stuff that I make than I sell.
Yes.
So mostly because it's for me the important part of the act is the creation part of it, and to if I can bring joy to people's lives with some of those creations, and that's really fulfilling.
Is your love language giving gifts?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And cooking, which is the same thing.
Same thing. That's still
it's a
giving
creation,
gifts.
and
Yeah, the giving of yourself. Whether it's time or something more tangible. Was there a particular moment in time where you realized that words have power?
That's a good one. I honestly don't know. I've never thought about it. I don't think there was a one moment. It just has always been that way. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Like I said, growing up on the homestead, my mom loves to tell a story about me reading the dictionary, which is sad, but true. I enjoyed words, and I enjoyed learning words and where words came from. So I think I inherently knew the power of words and writing.
Yeah.
Just all my life. So there's no one time that I'm like, this can be powerful.
Some people have, I talk with my youngest daughter about this all the time. She's a musician, and I'm more on the other side of the brain. So I can't hear music in my head, but I constantly have words in my head. Do you notice anything like that? Do you constantly have, whatever, like in my brain, I just see words all the time, or different passages of something is in my head, but I never hear music along with it, and I find that that's very interesting in different people's brains. Do you experience anything like that?
Yeah, I think we think a lot of alike, because musically, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
I could pretend, I could learn, a chord or two on the guitar, but that's me fabricating someone else doing something. But so if I was to try to make a song in my head, well, I guess that's not true. I can't make music in my head. I can write songs. So I have a kind of a joke or a game that I play with myself, and a lot of the times I'll make up a song or a couple of verses of a song from the last sentence someone says.
And that's fun.
And it's pretty funny sometimes. And I get the joke more often than anybody else. So.
Yeah.
So I'm always laughing at my own stuff. But yeah, I do see words always in my head. If I hear a new word, that I like, sometimes I'll write it down. So I have a journal that I write just random stuff down in. I have a list of favorite words. I should have brought my journal. I have a list of favorite words that I add to, throughout the, especially if I hear a good one that I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
I'll write that down. But a couple of them, let's see here. Oubliette, that's a fun one.
What does it mean?
An oubliette is very dark. It's a type of torture, to be honest.
Okay.
It's basically a hole in the ground that's maybe 20 feet deep and about 2 to 3 feet wide.
Okay.
That you drop people into.
Oh, it sounds so much more fun than it really is.
Yes, yeah. And if you're feeling generous, you might drop some food in there once in a while. But usually the people they're pinned, they can't really.
Ooh, that does sound like torture.
Yeah, so it's a pretty excruciating way to die. But the word is fun.
The word is fun. It really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I love that you said that. And something that people have always thought was weird about me is when I'm reading a novel, as you can see, my library over there is extensive. and I don't know everything, but I love vocabulary. And so, not exactly the same as you, but I have like a journal. And as I'm reading, if there's a word I don't know, I write it down until it's full. And then I do sessions like, you know, when you're in like elementary school and they make you do vocab tests. And I just write down the definitions of all of those words and then I start using them in my everyday vocabulary. And my kids, it drives my family crazy. They're like, we don't know what any of this stuff means. And I'm like, but I do.
Yeah.
And it's literally a source of enjoyment. Like that's what, if I had any free time, which I don't, but if I did, I would do a lot more of that.
Yeah, yeah.
So reading the dictionary is not that strange to me.
Right.
Are any of the characters in your books based on people that you know?
Yes.
You're probably not going to tell us, are you?
No, I will.
Okay.
Well, first, it's obvious that there's something of me in every one of my characters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to come up with this stuff from somewhere, so I draw off of my own experiences and feelings and things that I think, and the bad guys are things that I don't like about myself, you know, and so I'll put that out there, yeah, to remind myself not to be that kind of person. Really.
Yeah.
In Emergence Collective, Frank is based really heavily on a person that I know. We call him Uncle Charlie.
Okay.
He's not technically my uncle, but just it's one of those people that it's everybody's uncle.
Yeah.
And practically a carbon copy of Frank. There's a scene in Emergence Collective where Frank is going to a hardware store and he's not wearing shoes because he lives in a commune, a hippie commune, and he just doesn't wear shoes. I mean, that's his thing. And he forgets to put on shoes to go to town, and he goes into the store and he gets called out on it, not wearing shoes. That's a trait of Charlie.
Oh, wonderful.
Charlie lived in Cottage Grove, Oregon, and on a nice homestead back there, and never wore shoes. He's a biologist, and so a nature biologist. So he spent a lot of years just hanging out in the woods, you know, counting squirrels and whatever he does. But yeah, that's him. The commune idea was kind of inspired by Charlie's homestead, and Charlie himself. Just I'd say 90% of the character is Charlie for Frank.
Very cool.
I get.
Does he know it though?
Yes, he does.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I don't. If I'm gonna like really incorporate that much of a person, I want them to know about it. Mostly because if they didn't like it, because before I published the book, I kind of like, if you don't like how I'm portraying you, because you know, I want to give them the opportunity to say, oh, don't put that in there. So,
Oh, that's really nice of you.
because you know, the idea of the book is to bring people happiness.
Yeah. Do you hide any secrets or symbolisms in your novels, or maybe some inside jokes that only one or two people would know?
There's a few. There's I call it an Easter egg. Once you start reading Emergence Ascended, you'll get it right away, I think.
Okay. All right. So you guys, you're gonna have to make sure that you get that book. Well, get the first one, and then when the second one's published, make sure you buy it.
But aside from that, there's a couple inside jokes that some people might get, but I don't do too much like soapboxing. I don't have anything that I want to tell people.
Right.
You know,
So there's no hidden ulterior motive in your books.
there's no message. There's no commentary on society or because to me, fiction. That's why I read it, is to get away from reality.
Yes.
It's an escape into something. Even if it's a horror story, it's not real to me. So I can escape into some darkness that I know it's a safe place.
Yes.
That it's not reality. Because I get reality too much.
Yeah, and as a consumer, can I just thank you personally for that? I recently read a novel by one of my favorite authors, who I won't name here, but it was supposed to be horror, but it was all current day events. And I'm like, it is, you're right, this is a horror. It's horrible. I just can't. And the book was well written, but I couldn't get that escapism from everyday life that I was really, excited for and looking forward to. So much appreciated.
Because I don't want it, it's not, I want to forget.
Yeah.
So I write stuff that is about as far away from reality as I can get, just for the most part.
I mean, and I guess I could understand the argument on the other side. We might get people in the comments saying, well, it's for history, it's important that it's, in there. And I do understand that, but I guess just for me personally, I just don't want to read about it. Like, I just spent years living it, and I don't want to read about it in my, my off time, my relaxation time.
Yeah, and I get that, but I'll let the people who are willing to shoulder that burden take it upon themselves to do so. I don't feel that anything that I have to say about it would contribute too much to the conversation.
Yeah.
We all have the same shared experience. So
it's true. Have you ever worked through a personal trauma through what one of your characters was going through in your novels?
Nothing really specific that I can think of. Like I said, I kind of try to keep reality away from it. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm lucky enough not to have had a lot of personal trauma to work through.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm human, so I've had trauma.
Of course.
But maybe I've worked through it, and so I don't really have any, no messages I want to iron out or deal with in my stories. It's just pure, enjoyment for me.
Yeah. So do you think that the process is cathartic for you? Is it like a relaxing, restorative, that type of thing?
Yeah. It's a compulsion to do creative things, and so there's no message in the stories, but for me, the act of doing it is healing. If I have a bad day at work, I'll just escape into my story and forget all about it for a little while, and then so maybe I am working out things, but not in the words, but through the words.
Yeah, I love that. What has been your biggest challenge as an author?
Writing.
Oh, tell me more.
Finding the time to write. When I have the time to write, I'm not motivated to write. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood, to go there, or, like I said, the day before yesterday, something happened and I've been thinking about that and haven't been thinking about my story. So when you have the urge to do it, you got to strike when the iron's hot. Sometimes the timing doesn't line up for. I usually write in the mornings. I get up pretty early, 5 or 6 in the morning, and the house is quiet and everybody's asleep, and I'll chill out on the couch and put on some music and start hammering out the story, and then sometimes I don't. Wake up tired, not really, I didn't sleep well that night, and the mood isn't there to get involved into my ideas. So, but finding the actual time to do it is probably the biggest hurdle. Emergence Ascended should have been finished a year ago, but I go through times where it's like months, stretches like a month where I don't write a single word, and then I'll cram in like 4 or 5 chapters in a week. So I'm really sporadic in how I do it, and that's with all my artwork too, because sometimes I'm in the mood to paint, but then I have to get out all my painting stuff, and then by the time I'm organized to do it, the mood is gone or my inspiration is gone.
Where do you find your continued inspiration to continue writing after your first novel?
Everywhere. Conversations I have with people. Be careful. It might end up in a book somewhere. If someone says something funny or a phrase or something, I might log it in somewhere in the back of my mind and pull it out when I'm writing a character for a character. A lot of observation I'm really introverted, so I get to stand, on the wallflower and watch everybody. And so the world is inspiring. People are both crazy nuts and insanely kind, and if you just look for it, you'll see it. And so yeah, pretty much everywhere is inspiration. I'm always thinking about what can, it's like Stephen King, of course he's the guru for all writers, horror or not. He's like, find a problem and then write a solution to it. And that's the story. The whole story is about ending the problem that you're having. So there's lots of problems out there. If you look, you can, find something interesting. Sometimes I don't know where the ideas come from. It'll just pop into my head. I have a short story called Alone.
Oh.
And it's a scary story. The setting is right around the Depression era.
Okay.
And it's based off of a traveling circus, and some of the circus freaks. There's a Siamese twin.
Oh.
And he's the main bad guy character, a conjoined twin.
Okay. Have you published this one?
Yeah, it's actually on Amazon.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna run out there and grab that like right when we're done.
Right. Yeah, I think it's 99 cents.
What? I can afford that.
Yeah, so I was falling asleep, taking a nap, and the hypnagogic, dream, you start to have these weird dreams, you jerk yourself awake or you hear a loud noise. That I was sort of in that state, and this image of a conjoined twin, or joined at the head, carrying a mallet for like a circus, and overalls and all that stuff. And I had to write something about that.
Yeah.
Flashed imagery. Where did it come from? I have no idea. Why am I thinking of a 1940s conjoined twin from a circus? Just the image popped in my head, and I wrote the story around it. I won't spoil it for you, but it's called Alone.
Okay, that's what I'm doing this afternoon.
It was one of the first things I really sat down and wrote, because I have a lot of unpublished stuff, unfinished stuff that's never going to see the light of day. It helped get me to where I am now, but there's just a lot of unfinished stuff. Alone was like, I had the good bones of this story, and I was listening to a podcast, and they were doing a horror story contest.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? I think this one might be a contender, so I sent it into them, and I got first place.
Woo! Congratulations!
Yeah.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
That must have been. Was that like a moment where you're like,
I can do this.
I am a writer.
Really, I think that was it because nobody's read my stuff.
Right.
I've been writing for years, but nobody's read it.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I had anybody really outside my captive audience at home.
Yeah.
To experience what I've written, and people liked it.
Yeah.
So I'll keep going at it, and then I started writing Emergence Collective, but I've been sitting on that idea for a long time before that. So I think it won because they liked the idea more than the story. I mean, the writing itself. It may not be horribly written to some people, I guess, but I'm my worst enemy when it comes to that kind of thing.
Every artist is their own worst critic. I mean, it's never good enough. It's never quite finished. I mean, at some point we just have to sign it and walk away.
Right. Yeah. So that's why, I'm an artist. I draw and I paint, and I do all that stuff. Why am I not designing my own cover? I even know what it looks like in my head.
That is a really good question.
Yeah.
Are you going to answer it for us? To remind yourself?
Right. And the answer is because I'm never finished.
Oh, okay.
I'll always look at the cover and go,
should have done it different.
It could have been better. It's always, it could have been better. So I don't want to be that way when I look at my work. It's like I don't read it either.
You don't?
No.
You just write it and then you're done, like you don't do any of the proofing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And weirdly enough, most of it is one shot. It's like I don't do any changes very much. In the last couple chapters of Emergence Ascended, I started to rethink how I wanted to end it, and I did delete an entire chapter that I wrote.
A whole chapter? Did you grieve that at all?
I grieved the time.
Yes,
I
exactly.
grieved the time because how much little, or how much little time makes sense, how little time I get, but it wasn't really wasted in a way because I saw the direction it was going and I didn't like it.
Right.
But I had an opportunity to change. So
So I guess then it's a positive because
Yeah.
the book isn't going to end up published with something that is subpar to
Right.
how you feel about it.
yeah. It that chapter kind of went into. I'm like, I'm telling myself this is really pretentious and this is really expository, and I didn't want to be preachy, and,
Yeah.
and the way that the chapter was flowing, it was leaning really heavy on that stuff, and it's like that's not what I wanted in the book.
Yeah.
So I deleted it, wrote it again, and I like this version much better. It was a lot more closer to what I had originally in my head.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful.
Because the way I write is I have an idea, and I kind of have the whole story all together, front, middle, end, and then I just kind of write to get to the end. And it takes its own deviations and paths, and I surprise myself. The story writes itself. I'm steering it in the direction that it's supposed to go, but all the middle stuff, all the ingredients
Yeah.
come to me on the fly, as I write it. Sometimes I'm like, wow, that's a good line. So I'm enjoying it as I'm writing it, but I don't want to read it once I'm done.
Oh, that is really interesting. I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say that before, but I like it. So now you were talking about the ingredients, and you mentioned earlier that you like to cook. And that leads me to my next question of what is your favorite food?
If it's Tuesday, it's tacos.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. So do you have like a menu that you do? Like, do you set up a menu? Are you the main cook for your
I am the
family?
main cook, yeah.
Do you set up a menu,
We-
and so you know what is coming like the next day, so your family isn't like, hey, husband, dad, what's for dinner?
We kind of do. We have kind of a list of our usuals that we have, but you change it up. But we eat a lot of the same things
Yeah.
over and over again. I made butter chicken the other night.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "This is good tikka masala." They're like, because I make tikka masala all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I wanted butter chicken. They're like, it's the same thing. I'm like, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's like pizza. Pizza's pizza, but you can use a bunch of different ingredients and
Yeah.
still call it pizza. Well, this is, Indian food. It's the same ingredients, but I can make different things out of it.
Yeah. So would you say that Indian food is like
It's-
in your
it's
top five?
Mexican, Indian, Italian, barbecue.
Okay, so you're a foodie. You like
I'm a
a
foodie, yeah,
wide
yeah,
variety.
Yeah, if you put it in front of me, I'll eat it.
Okay. So do you have an adventurous palate? Like you'll
Yes.
try anything
Yes,
once?
yeah.
Okay. What's
Good.
the weirdest thing you've ever tried?
I don't know. It's weird. Muktuk.
What's that?
That is whale blubber.
Did you eat it just like raw, like
Yeah.
for
yeah.
sustenance kind of a thing?
In
Is
Alaska.
this when you lived on your homestead?
Yeah, in Alaska, there's a lot of Aboriginals, Inuit, and several different tribes. For like me, it's been so long.
Yeah.
But they would come in, cultural events at school and bring in their families, cultural foods.
Mm-hmm.
And muktuk was one of them, and we made it ice cream out of it.
Oh,
So
that sounds interesting. Did you add a flavor to it then?
berries, yeah.
Oh,
So it was, all locally sourced ingredients.
yeah.
So cranberries and blueberries smashed together with ice and cream and the whale blubber.
That sounds actually really good.
And it is really good. The texture is really smooth and creamy, but of course it's pure fat. So when you're
Yeah.
done, you can have that layer of
Yeah, so you have to like brush your teeth or whatever.
yeah. Eat something crunchy.
Yeah, eat something crunchy, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I wonder if muktuk works. You know how people use coconut oil for oil pulling to clean the teeth? I wonder if it would work well for that too. I don't know. Something for me to like.
Yeah. I don't
look
recall
online later.
anybody had bad teeth. So.
If you had to be stuck on a 3-day train ride with one of your characters, who would it be and why?
I like Frank a lot.
Yeah. Well, and he's based on somebody that you know in real life that you
Yeah.
love.
So,
Yeah.
I guess so that's not fair.
No, it's totally fair. Yeah, there's no wrong answer. This
Right.
is your.
It definitely wouldn't be Barney.
Oh yeah.
From Emergence Ascended, I think Serenity's a cool chick because we could probably talk a lot
Yeah.
about stuff. you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to differentiate from the characters because, like I said, a lot of them are just little pieces of me.
Exactly.
You know, I guess authors are, multiple personality disorder because we have to pretend that we're different people all the time.
Yeah.
And so the only way I can do it is to have different aspects of my personality.
Yeah.
So would I like to spend all that time with myself? Well, actually, yeah.
Everywhere you go, there you are.
Right, yeah.
And
I'm really happy by myself. That's
Yes.
one of my problems being an introvert is the people that I know will, I haven't heard from you in 2 months. Are you okay? I'm like, it's been 2 months.
yes, yes. Coming from a fellow introvert, I understand being perfectly happy with your own company. And people are like, don't you get lonely? Don't you get bored? I'm like, no. Like everywhere I go, here I am. I'm instant entertainment for myself.
I'm very entertaining.
Okay, so then leads to my next question, which is probably, I'm guessing the answer is going to be Barney. But if you had to live off grid with someone, who would frustrate and annoy you the most?
Yeah, that would definitely be Barney.
Even though he can materialize very cool things.
Well, okay.
I don't want to give too much away, but he can do cool stuff, you guys.
Yeah. Well, then it wouldn't be really living off grid.
Touche.
I would say Will.
He would annoy you the most?
Will from Emergence Ascended. I think mostly because he doesn't seem like he's very good at doing any kind of labor.
Okay.
He doesn't seem to want to work very hard to do anything. Yeah, sometimes you gotta get dirty. When you're living.
When you live off grid, yes you do.
You just gotta get dirty and not complain about it. And I think, not that Will's a big complainer, but I think after a while it would start to grate on you.
Yep. You have to teach him everything
Yes.
as you go.
Yeah. Which is not a bad thing. I love to teach. So.
Well, that's good. So you guys, I know you don't know what I'm talking about, but you are going to, after this video is over, I'm going to tell you all about how to get a hold of his books because you are not going to want to miss either one of them. And you'll know exactly what we're talking about once you read those books. So make sure that you buy the books and then come back and make a comment down in the comments to tell us what you think about Barney and what you think about Will, and especially Serenity.
Where do we get all these mythical stories? Obviously creatures, because the slime mold became affected by it. And the story behind that is slime molds aren't slime molds. Or slime molds aren't mold.
Yeah.
It's not really a fungus. It's a single-celled organism that has lots of mitochondria. Lots of little powerhouse units that can act independently if it's separated or severed from the whole. So they can become massive entities already. Like some fungus are the biggest objects and the biggest living objects in the world because their filaments just go for miles and miles and miles underground. Sort of the same thing like for this. And slime molds are really intelligent because they're basically their own neural network. So I kind of played with this idea. The slime mold was my Yoda character.
Yeah.
Right? I needed somebody to bounce this. Where's all this information coming from? So I needed a tool to describe the idea of, how does this material operate? Why is it Emergence Collective? What does emergence mean? Emergence is chaos organized into something bigger than individual selves. You know, the beehive is the drones doing one job. They don't know anything besides that job.
Yeah.
And the queen does her job. She's not giving orders. You know, we call her the queen because we see it from that point of view, but the queen is just doing her job. But everybody doing their job makes the hive functional.
Right.
And that is emergence, that higher property of many smaller individual things coming together is an emergent property. It makes something, you know, I think the universe as a whole is, emergence is a phenomenon that drives everything behind the universe. Everything is, you know, at first it was scattered dust, and then it coalesced into planets and stars, and just a sort of evolution of objectiveness. I guess there's a word called ontology, which describes this idea. Well, one thing's called object and ontology, where this book is a book. We call it a book. It's one object, but it's made up of paper and glue and the tree that the paper was made out of. So is this a tree?
No.
Is this ink?
No.
From the squid? You know, it's what is it? But this book is part of this room.
Right.
And
you can't forget all the words that are in there.
The words are in there, right? The thought, the ideas.
There's
right?
like actual like personality to the inanimate object.
Right. So that's sort of object-oriented ontology, where we realize that our place in the universe is the same place the book is. The book isn't aware of its location in the living room. We don't know where we are in our universe, but we're part of a bigger whole.
Right.
And if people describe that through religious views, then that's still part of the idea. You know, there's no wrong answers to the object-oriented ontology, and emergence to me is one of the driving principles behind that. And the ants don't know their colony, but if you take an ant colony in America and match it up with an African ant colony, the structures, how the colonies are built roughly the same way. They have the same components. How do they know that? They don't. It's an emergent property, and that's where Emergence Collective comes from, is the material that gives them their stuff.
Yeah. Is
just the catalyst. It's not the object. It's not the thing. There's no magic in the rock. It's the nudge that we needed to get into that higher level of awareness and being able to see our attachments to things, and because everything's attached to everything. You look at a pebble, now you've become attached to that pebble, and the pebble vice versa has become attached to you on some weird level. So everything in the world is attached to everything. We're all one, man.
Yeah.
You know, so,
exactly. I love that. People don't think about that enough because society, especially, kind of in developed society, they are gearing more toward individuality as opposed to understanding that really we are a collective. Yeah. We're all connected to one another by so many different, invisible strings that there's no way to separate us.
Right. Yeah.
But nobody likes to think about that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm number one, or I'm an individual, there's no one else like me, when it's not quite reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deep thoughts. Tell us what you do with your time when you're not writing.
Well, I do a lot of making stuff for, I have a laser engraver, and pretty much anything I could think of, I'll try to make with that thing. Artwork, painting, boxes, and wall art, and that sort of thing. Projects for people. I make stuff for D&D.
Nice.
So.
And it looks like you brought some things to show. Would you like to show any of these items to our audience today?
Let's start with this is a good one. Here's an MC Escher image that I cut out of plywood, and it's on foam core, but it's a nice little wall art. If you can't tell, it's the reflection of trees in water.
It's beautiful. You guys are gonna have to fight me to order this one online.
Yeah, I know the guy who makes it.
You can make another one, maybe.
Make another one. Yeah, there it is. There's a dice box I made for D&D. This is Cthulhu version. So it's like it's got this famous saying. And so I make these boxes and some more fancy paintings. This is a process to do, but it's really fun. I like how they turn out in the end.
It's beautiful.
This was one of my first projects. So inlaid resin into an engraving. So
It's really beautiful. I love this one.
so yeah, that's what I do. Anything that suits my fancy. I've done paintings and I've painted them rather than my laser.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just pretty much if it's art, I'll dig into it. Mostly make stuff for people just to do it.
Yeah.
I like to do the creative part of it, but I never feel very good about like trying to sell my stuff to my friends. I enjoyed making it, and I don't really like selling things to people I know. Most likely, if you know me, I'll probably get something that I made.
Yeah. Earlier, you mentioned that when you get up early in the morning to do your writing, that sometimes you'll put some music on. What kind of music do you play, and do you always listen to music while you write?
Yeah, 99% of the time I'll put on some music. I have my Spotify playlist. It's called Mellow Chill.
Okay.
It's got some really mellow music. It's Typo Negative, Lacuna Coil, Deftones. I don't know how to pronounce this. Molchet Dome. Anyway.
I can't help you with that one.
Weird, Bauhaus type stuff. It's my mellow music.
Yeah.
It might not be mellow for some people, but little Black Label Society in there every once in a while. But I tend to lean towards the mood that I'm writing for. So
Okay.
if it's, I'll single in on a few different songs that give off an emotion. If I'm writing an emotional part of the scene, I'll sort of listen to that and feed off of that. But yeah, music. I'm not a musician, so I've noticed that musicians and artists cling together, like Velcro. One's grabby and one's sticky. So, because we feed off of each other. So
Yeah.
I need music because I can't create that. But it helps me with my emotions, and if I want to be aggressive, I'll turn on some thrash or something like that.
I was just gonna ask for the battle scenes. Who's your go-to?
Yeah. Oh, good old standards. Megadeth, Slayer.
I was gonna guess Death Angel, but okay.
Death, the band, is one of my number one favorites.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Very cool.
and then there's a band called The Third and the Mortal, which for a lot of the foofier spiritual scenes that I write is listen to The Third and the Mortal.
Okay.
And they're pretty big very big in Scandinavia. So
Okay. What's your biggest distraction when you're writing?
the internet.
Because you're curious and you want to go research something, or
Yeah. The rabbit holes. I got an idea. I want to make sure that I'm using it correctly, or a tool, or something. I want to make sure that I'm not saying stupid stuff.
Yeah.
'Cause it's weird. If I'm a genius, and my character is a genius, suddenly I have to be a genius.
Yep.
I can't make stuff up because the world lives on the internet and everybody wants to fact check each other.
Yeah.
So, like if you're to write really hardcore science fiction, people are going to want to know how you made that molecular destabilizer.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Of course they are.
I don't know what the it sounded good when I wrote it down, but I don't have the nuts and bolts. So I try to do a lot of researching, but then it's an hour later, and I'm, now I'm reading something about, some lost tribe in New Guinea, when I started out looking for how is this plane made,
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So-
The internet.
so-
Everyone's massive distraction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Has writing changed how you see yourself?
Yes, I guess, because I start looking at myself through the same lens I do as a writer. So, how would I be in this scene?
Yeah.
What kind of person am I standing in line at Starbucks? Am I the pushy one?
Mm-hmm.
Am I the impatient one? So I guess it kind of does, because it's a reflection of myself. And even like I said, some of the bad guy characters, some of those traits are traits that I don't like about myself. So I, make myself self-aware, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the intrusive thoughts are important because it teaches you not to do those things.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing some little self-accountability.
Yeah.
And through your writing.
Yeah. So I see myself differently because I started writing. I guess it would be the answer.
Yeah, that's some real serious self-reflection there.
Yeah.
Tell us, where can we buy your art and where can we purchase your novels?
My novels are on Amazon.
Okay.
You can either search for my name, and I'm not sure how many people are on Amazon with my name, but you'll find me.
I'm gonna put a link, actually, you guys, down in the description box, so you don't have to search for him at all. Just click the link; it'll take you right to his book.
I have a link tree, so
Oh.
it should have all of my social media accounts.
You sure you
It's-
want them on your socials?
I
These crazy folks?
screen them.
Just kidding, you guys. We love you.
Yeah, and yes, my socials, my Etsy site. I think I have a merchandise site, which I just made up because everybody else does.
Okay. And you have a blog too, don't you?
Of course, my blog. Yeah, that's really the best place you can keep up to date on my stuff. I don't let it go too long before I make another blog post.
Tell us what kind of things do you post on your blog?
It's mostly just about my writing.
Mhm.
I don't get into much of my art because really the jshallett.com
Mm-hmm.
is a place for me to just discuss my writing journey. So,
That's amazing.
and I'll talk about my stories. I try not to get spoilery.
Yeah.
I also use it as a platform to get ideas out, like just the bare bones of an idea. I do have a couple of fully formed short stories on there. Some of my horror stories. I really want to do a lot more horror stories.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what people's tolerance levels are. So I think on the one Itch gets pretty graphic, so I made sure to warn people on that one.
Yeah.
But it's a horror story, so there's going to be some kind of violence, gore. Something's got to be scary about it.
Yes,
So
I'm
this-
going to be peer pressuring you constantly for the horror because there's just not a lot of new coming out. And one of the things that I love about your work is such original ideas that I'm not hearing from every other, when you're a horror fan, you hear a lot of repetitive things,
Yeah.
same kind of scenarios.
Tropes.
Tropes, thank you.
Yes.
You're just going to continue to increase my vocabulary. You guys, I'm going to put his link tree down in the description box. I'll make sure you can get to all of his, his blog, where you can get his books and where you can purchase his art. Please support him with the work that he's doing because you will not be disappointed. His books are golden.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for sharing it with the world. Now, once we do purchase your art and your books, and we've consumed that art, how important are reviews to you?
Reviews are super important. Well, it tells me how I'm doing.
Yes.
First of all, do they like me?
Yeah.
You know, but aside from that little ego boost, it brings awareness to Amazon. There's algorithms that people who leave reviews, the more reviews and the more positive reviews I get, kind of makes it float to the surface. There's millions and millions of books and rankings.
Yeah.
And a 5-star review is great. If you don't like my book, please don't leave a 5-star review.
Right.
I want honest feedback from
Right.
people. It doesn't help too much to have a little 1 star or 2 stars, but also I've read 1-star reviews, not for my stuff, but for books that I've purchased, and completely disagreed with it.
Yeah.
I've also read a bunch of 5-star reviews, and I'm like, this is crap.
Right.
So as far as the rating goes, it's good for me to know, gauge, but as far as the algorithm for Amazon, the more reviews I get, and the higher the reviews are, the more awareness I get into the community. And best-selling author versus best author. Well,
Yeah.
A best-selling author could be crap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just have a really good publicist, good marketing team.
Yeah, they get the eyeballs on it.
Get lots of people to see it, and then they can cherry pick their reviews from that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I may not be the best author out there, but nobody's going to know. I could be the worst author out there. Still, nobody's going to know it because they don't know I exist.
Right. So you guys, make sure that after you buy and read his book that you give him a review. It's super important, as you can tell. And, I think it's just a way that we can give back to people who are giving of themselves. It's just a small thing that we can do to help them just on their journey, right? Because even though the writing is probably such like the biggest part, the biggest portion of the journey, like all these small little things are part of the experience for the author and also for the reader. So I really want to thank you so much for joining us today and like letting my audience get to know you. This is a really big treat for all of us.
It's been a lot of fun for me, and thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. So you guys, if you have any questions for him, please put them down in the comments. He may or may not come along and read them later and give you a little answer to your question, okay? Now, did you want to read anything do you want to read an excerpt from your book?
Sure. Let me think about where I'd want to go with that. The book. The setup for this story is Frank has this hole on his property, and it's just a dump. Everybody in the community uses it pretty much as a dump. It's been used as a dump for generations, and it's never filled up, so nobody thinks about it. Until Frank thought about it. And he's like, why isn't it filling up? So he went to the dump, dumped stuff off, met up with one of his neighbors. They started talking about how deep is this hole.
Yeah.
So Frank got an idea in his head to find out how deep the hole was. So they dump their dump and are taken off. Frank's driving home. Lost in his thoughts, Frank missed the turn to his homestead and had gone a few miles before noticing. He considered turning back, but then decided to keep going straight on towards Ellensburg, and to see what the hardware store could offer with his new project. The drive there was short. He only lived about 10 miles west of Ellensburg. Still lost in his thoughts and even a little excited, he must have been driving faster than he realized since he got to the hardware store in quick time. It was good though. The evening was going by fast and the store was about to close up for the night. He got out of his Volkswagen van and pushed open the old door to the storefront. He only got a few steps into the store when the cashier gave him an odd look. The young kid had spiky black hair and a nose ring. "Mister, you can't come in here like that." The young kid sounded apologetic and amused at the same time. "Like what?" Frank was oblivious to any reason why you shouldn't be there. Your feet, bro. You have to have shoes to come on in. It's a safety thing. Might step on a nail and sue us or something. A smile indicated laughter was soon to follow. Frank looked down at his feet and realized that he wasn't wearing shoes. The thick calluses on his perpetually dirty feet did not feel shoes in the summer most of the time. He was an old hippie and stuck in a time warp. Shoes were for winter, and it was too cold to go without. He chuckled at himself and smiled back at the cashier. Sorry, Frank said with a bit of a giggle. He was not embarrassed by his attire. Look at that kid. Why should I be embarrassed by the way I dress? He thought to himself, almost laughing out loud. Nonchalantly turning around, he gave the cashier a nod goodbye and headed for the exit. He only felt a little disgruntled by the situation since it was a wasted trip. He did not have anything much to do anyway, but wasted gasoline was wasted money.
That's amazing.
And that's,
You guys, this book is so good.
and that's Frank, who's based on my friend, and that specific situation didn't happen, but that was Frank. He never wore shoes.
Yeah.
And he was a biologist and tromped around the woods and just didn't think about that sort of thing.
That is just the coolest thing. I love when people write about people that they know. I feel like it just brings so much, intimacy to the book. Well, thank you for the reading. Thank you for this interview. I appreciate it. You guys, make sure you check out all of his links down below in the description. Let us know what you think when you do read it, or if you have already read it, because if you haven't, you're missing out. All right, you guys, I will see you next time. Bye.